would love to know how Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine got these parts. I don't have that information, so please send it in. A children's hour. So it turns out that there was a court case about in Scotland in the early 1900s. And there were two women who had the rumor spread about them that they were lovers, and they were running a girls' school, and the whole school had, first of all, they take the kids out, and then the school folds, but the women took the people who spread the rumors to court. And so that became a play that was performed in the early 30s. And then they made a movie out of it. Why isn't there a children's hour in the 30s? It's because they renamed it to These Three. Not only did they rename it, they also took the gay out. So now it's the two women, but they're fighting over this one guy. Why would you... I mean, I haven't seen that film, but why would you possibly take kids out of school because two women are fighting over a fiancé? I don't know. Weird. So, we've not heard of that film. I haven't heard of that film. The Peanut Gallery has not heard of that film. Nope. Even though it's got Merle Oberon in it, who is not small fry. And was it Samuel Goldwyn? Producing. So these are big things. It must have been a proper big production. But yeah, to get more of your gay on screen, you don't need to go see that movie. Because they heterofied the whole thing. So then, and oh, by the way, William Wyler directed it.
The new one?
No, yes, he directed These Three. So somebody wanted to do a children's hour, the play, and possibly William Wyler, and then they pulled back, said no, can't do the gay with the Hays Code.
William Wyler was not on that poster that you showed me.
But the only way to find the film is to go to William Wyler's directorial credits, and it's him. Yes.
Yeah, but he didn't want to be on the poster, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I mean, they were pumping out movies left, right, and center in those days, so it's like one movie more or less. But nowadays they would put an Alan Smithee on it if they really disagreed with what was done with the film. Maybe, they promised him, we're going to do it, and then they
reneged.
Yeah, and then to him it's like, okay, well, I guess I have to do it, but please take my name off of everything. So, in 1961, William Wyler is doing a children's hour with Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine. Now, we were originally talking about Scottish women, but it's an American production and it's set in America. But Audrey is presents a proper British woman. And there's nothing in the story that talks about her migrating to the country or whatnot. It's a given. She already has the lovely fiancé played by James Garner, Dr. Joe. So Audrey plays Karen and Shirley MacLaine plays Martha, and they together have the children's school. It starts. They're just getting on their feet. This month they are actually running a profit. First time ever. Yay! Now, for everybody who's seen it, you know just how down the drain this whole thing goes. So Karen and Martha started the school together. It's a boarding school for girls, well-to-do girls. They come from households with a lot of money, so they have to, bring their A game. They do, very clearly. And then one of the girls is just an absolute brat, like the worst kind of brat. And eventually, this brat tries everything. Her name is Mary, and eventually finds that she could accuse them in a very sly way of being lovers. And once the bread gets that rolling, people start pulling their kids out of this school in the space of one day. Almost one day. Like 24 hours and the school was empty. So yesterday morning, everything fine. By 5 p.m. this afternoon, everything they built is gone. Karen and Martha go around trying to find the information. Eventually they corner Mary's grandmother. Mary seems to live with her grandmother, which makes a lot of sense that she needs to be going to boarding schools because the grandma is old and frail. So these people have enough money, so you send this kid to a lovely boarding school, and it is a very nice boarding school. There's a scene where Karen is giving Mary the chance to own up to stuff, and Mary just doesn't take it. She holds on to her lies, even though they're so blatantly clear. So they spend a good amount of time showing just how nasty this girl is, and that it isn't a girl just having just one moment of saying something bad. This girl has really bad intentions. She also Mary blackmails a little kleptomania girl, Rosalie, and so Rosalie has to back up the lies. Yeah, and it's just it's so
insidious.
Yes, insidious is a very good word. So the power that girl is spreading around, she found out where she could get power, what her power was, and she's wielding it with absolutely no regard for anything. Karen's engagement to Dr. Joe also falls by the wayside because everybody's thinking they did it. So they're thinking it's true, and Karen's like, no, I'm not marrying a guy who thinks that I'm sleeping with my friend and lying about it. So fair, but that means that there goes the engagement. And then eventually the grandma finds out because the kleptomania situation was found out by by Rosalie's parents. So they took the girl to Mary's grandma, and Mary's grandma goes, she does fall down and almost has a heart attack over it. It's like, oh my god, I ruined these young women's lives. Yes, you did. And even if it was true, you still have ruined these women's lives, because she did that on purpose. But to her, it was like, for the children. We now don't think that way anymore. This is insane. And comes to try to make amends with Karen and Martha, but by that time they've been through what's not on screen, but I have seen a photo of it, of a scene in a courtroom, and that's not in the film. So I'm very sad that they took that scene out, because it's literally a scene. It's like an outtake and deleted scene kind of thing. I think this film would have benefited from a courtroom scene, because it's a play, so you allude to the courtroom that having happened, but it's a film, so you can just put the courtroom scene in it, and then people you can show just how horrible the prejudice was. And this one is based on it didn't happen. But even if it did happen, that prejudice, that is a bad thing for the children, is what needs to be shown. So I would have wanted the courtroom scene in there. And Mary gets her comeuppance, but
Comeuppance for all psychopaths.
Yes, please. Yeah, she's a nice little psychopath in the making, or probably already there at maybe 10 years old. It's just a fantastic little actress, by the way. So then we race to the end, and for those who haven't seen it, you may want a little spoiler space. But I thought, because I saw it a long time ago, and I rewatched it with much glee, I thought that Martha committed suicide because she was still under the impression that their lives were ruined because of something that she had now realized she did feel but never acted on, because she hadn't actually realized that she was feeling that So it was nowhere near to the point where she could have even taken any step in that direction. In the film, it's already been solved. The grandma has come back. They're going to be able to start a school elsewhere, not in this community, just because you can't be with these people anymore, that they've done that to you. But they could start a school somewhere else, and Karen is not going to get her fiancé back. She's not making moves to that at all. It is not in her worldview.
Once the person has let you down, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah. I love that scene. It was very interesting to see her press Joe for tell me if you need to know the truth. Ask me the question. And he says, no, I don't need to ask a question. I trust you. And then she just keeps pushing. And then he says, okay, I need to ask a question. And then she's like, okay. And she doesn't say, I knew that you didn't believe me, but that is why she wanted him to be pressed. If he had consistently said, I trust you, I know that you're not having an affair on me, we're together, that's what she wanted from him. And just pressing him for do you want to know if we slept together or not? It's like, yes, I do want to know. It's like, okay, bye. You don't trust me. Interesting. And this is such an interesting nuance to put in that film. And I assume it's in the play. I loved the Karen's character. Because she's reacting to things shaking her world, but she's very steadfast. She's a very calm, collected person. And she, maybe, British background, less burdened with American sensibilities about these things. Although in England at the time, it was frowned upon, as far as I know.
Illegal.
Between women. Oh, it was not between women. But nobody liked it. It was a social taboo. But maybe less so than America. It's still the case. American culture still has more problems with LGBTQ than, generically European culture. And the Brits will have to decide where they fall in this. So when at the end Martha is starting to come apart, I remembered that as much heavier. But it's actually a quite calm situation because she's already done the love confession to Karen. And sort of like a self-realization of, oh, I'm a lesbian. I never understood that about me. And then I think she's falling into this shock and deep depression. Because they've had weeks after that trial, and they've had probably weeks or months before that trial. So it's not clear how much time has passed by, but enough. And I think that just that moment of going, all of this has actually loosened up inside myself, that I understand that I'm a lesbian. And I never had in my life, effectively. She kind of understood that she was in love with Karen, but I think the more important thing was that she started to see who she was. And it was just such a blow. Also, then who she is unacceptable to society, clearly. Because who she is makes then impossible to continue to be a teacher, which is her entire life. So I think that's why she committed suicide. It's like, if somebody had stayed with her, because she said, no, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going, is that a good idea? No. If somebody had stayed with her, held her hand, and just, she would have been able to let out some of that despair and shock. But yeah, so I think it's an act of desperation, an act in the moment, rather than that she was a suicidal person. I don't see it that way. And I also don't see it as her committing suicide over, oh my god, I'm a lesbian. No. The shock of how life is different and what could have been if she'd known, and that it had to come around, that she had to understand it this way. That's how I see it. It may be a little bit too nuanced, but for me that helps it, watching this film. Because it is quite harsh that she... Yeah, I don't know. She's not there at the end of the film. We get a casket. We get Karen sharing a flower with Martha's aunt. Martha's aunt is a big role in this thing. So Martha's aunt, Lily Mortar, is played by Miriam Hopkins, who plays in the original film these three. I had to to check my notes. These three. Because it's not called the Children's Hour, so who would have known? Nobody would have known. Maybe they called it these three so that they disassociate themselves, and back in 1934, to disassociate from the Children's Hour play. Because, of course, people would have known the play. Come on. That's straight washing. Straight up straight washing. Anyway, so to make good, she's in this film as Martha's aunt. But Martha's aunt is quite a reprehensible person. Because she confirms to them... She actually started the whole thing by saying that Martha has an unnatural friendship with Karen, and the girl heard that and was quoting this unnatural thing. And you just have to say unnatural to that kind of society, and they all go, ooh. Yeah, and then the grandma comes in to talk to one of the women, but Lily, the aunt, is there, is about to leave, and she just babbles her way to, I got way too much interest in Martha's too interested in Karen, Okay, yes. So, without that aunt, it would have been a lot better. And Martha even says it at some point, it's like she only brought her bad luck and horrible things her entire life. So it's a shitstorm of several things happening, and the film makes a really good, stacks it up. Everything is motivated and clear why, what the character of that person is, and why it actually went all the way to drive that message home. Yeah. I still love that Karen doesn't then fall into the arms of Joe at the end of the film and go, oh, here, Joe, I am here. I'm no longer doing the school thing. I'm no longer with Martha. No. She's strong. She walks out. She's going to go elsewhere. She's going to start up another school. And I also thought Martha, even with that act of desperation at the end, I thought she was also very strong. These are women, they're go-to women. If you see the beginning of the film, like that whole day that they're showing that they've got, it's like a parents' day, so, and they're, by the end of the day, they're doing all the washing up of all the cups and saucers. They have nobody to help them. They have a school with 20 kids, and they have no domestic help at all between the two of them. And then they want to go out for a nice walk. Then Joe comes in, whisks Karen away to go for a walk. And then they're like, oh, shall we go to a movie? I'm going, after all of that, you're gonna go to a movie? It's like, what? These people have endless energy. I mean, going for a walk I get, but then it's like, okay, let's drive to wherever. Like, what? I just get tired just watching them all the stuff. But yeah, they're young-ish, late 20s, maybe. They can't be terribly much older because Karen is still going to marry Joe. And they're specifically talking about babies.
Mid-20s.
Yeah. Yeah. French class. It was, of course,
En français.
Yeah, so of course Audrey doing the French, and then like I need to rewind that. Yes, very very nice. It's beautifully done. Of course, William Wyler, as far as I know, is a very good director and very seasoned. Every image is pretty, and it's black and white, so there's that, but it's very crisp black and white. 1960s, when you still had some black and white films, and that just shows us that we had several others. The black and white films in the 60s is usually because it's a human drama story, not, everything early 60s was already in color and widescreen. This was a widescreen, at least on my version of it. I would assume they were all widescreen at that point. Normal widescreen, not like CinemaScope. I would have liked Martha to stay alive. If she just managed to get through that evening, I think she would have been okay. And then the both of them would have gone to, go to Canada or something. I mean, isn't that what people do?
I think 1961 is a little bit too early for lesbians to be shown and live in a movie.
Well, yeah, this is the Hays Code. So the one lesbian in the story actually had to die. Or be extremely miserable, but I think that they pretty much had to kill them. But Karen, nice sturdy bisexual woman there, I think. And now we understand why everything had to be subtextual, because as soon as you make it textual, the character has to die. Or be extremely miserable. Yeah. Of course, you can watch all sorts of bits and pieces of Shirley MacLaine and Audrey Hepburn, mostly Shirley MacLaine, talking about doing the film. And a couple of times that I saw that is that they said, like, we didn't talk about it. It was not a subject that could be discussed. So it was all of society, because these are, of course, wonderful people. We know them to be good people. And they stood for what they did. They were doing their job as actresses, and they delivered the lines as best they could. And I think Audrey put enough in there to give us a bisexual Karen. If not that, a very very strong woman who is not going to be pushed back and forth by society, because she was on her feet, mentally and psychologically, throughout the entire thing. She had a low moment when she had to push Joe away, as completely understandable, because she was expecting to marry him soon. They were going to, it was always like 2 weeks from now, or maybe next year, which do we still end school year, and then, because it was marriage, kids, and that's what she wanted. So for the moment, that's up in the air. She'll get there one way or the other. Yeah, I think everybody did a fantastic job. I'm happy that William Wyler was willing to revisit this, because he would have had to wait at least another 10 years if you're gonna do this without the Hays Code looming over your shoulders. So, and who knows how old he was at that point. So he might have thought, let's just do it. I've got two amazing actresses and they're willing to do it. They're go.
Shirley MacLaine was always the girl for weird parts. And everybody knew that Audrey Hepburn could also play anything that you threw at her.
Yeah.
And was willing to.
Yeah. And then that helps that she's European. So she would have said, yes, we're doing this. Also, she was on the stage. I don't know if Shirley MacLaine was on the stage, but Audrey started on the stage.
I don't think you could have mixed the roles up, because the audience would not have liked the Audrey Hepburn character to kill herself. Whereas the Shirley MacLaine character, Shirley MacLaine is always the one with the weird parts.
Okay, because I was thinking the other way, because Shirley MacLaine is the American, and this is for an American audience, and it's set in an American, let's call it New England type area. I would have imagined that they would have wanted the American to stay alive.
Audrey Hepburn is America's sweetheart.
Oh, so. Well, she's everybody's sweetheart.
and Shirley MacLaine is America's weird girl.
Oh, and they're both so pretty in this. Beautiful. It's probably the youngest I've seen Shirley MacLaine, because it's about the same time as yeah, so this is before Irma La Douce, and she's already super young in Irma La Douce. She's like this teeny tiny thing. And here she's so young. Oh my goodness. And it's beautiful close-ups. And the clothes, I can't comment too much on the clothes because to me it's more visual when it's color. But everybody, it's just so pucker. And one of the things that is nice about stories set in a particular time, filmed in a particular time, and it's now 60 years ago, 60 plus, is they show the current day. So that you've got all the big current day cars that these rich Americans would be. And with rich, I mean upper middle classes, not like super independently rich, not high society rich, but they had the proper, they were all very, very high-end cars. Also, that building that they've got is huge. If you would set it in Europe, and of course also Scotland is Europe, that would not have been their building would not have been nearly as nice. They do have many children in one room, and people have single beds, and there's one moment where it's kind of a shared bed kind of thing, but it's sort of like a queen sized, and it's 2 girls in a bed. But that's because it is a well-to-do school. These parents would not be sending their kids to, like, let's get basic education and have them out of the way. This is, yes, out of the way, but they have to get proper education and they have to be in proper circumstance. For that sense, it's too bad we didn't see much more of the actual goings on in the school.
I think you're going to run into problems because if it's based on a situation from 1900
in Scotland.
In Scotland, transposed to 1960 in America, you're running out of similar things that this doesn't exist actually.
Yeah, we see that with Douglas Sirk and his various American films, is they say, oh, it's super stylized and it's kind of taking the mickey out of it because it's like, do we even take this seriously? Because, well, he was a German from, completely different circumstances. So middle class America to him will look a little bit like fairyland. And so you can't transpose things too much, but I like it that they just kind of put it in the now for them. They didn't make a big deal out of this was 1904 or whatever it was. They went with like, let's just go current day. So we have current day cars, and there's not a lot of other technology other than phones. Because what technology do people have in the 60s? Phones and cars, and kitchen equipment, but it's not. They don't have a dishwasher. It's not dishwasher time yet. I would say still worth watching. Yes, it's a bit shocking at the end. I mean, it's shocking. But if you know it, that's easier to deal with. And I've kind of worked my way around like having a little bit of a different opinion about why she would go all that length to commit suicide, especially because she did it in all calmness. Not the way I remembered it was a lot more dramatic in the sense of the screaming and the shouting. So I thought the screaming and shouting was actually appropriate. It was just, yes, when people are upset, yeah. And Martha, so Shirley MacLaine playing Martha, she is more of a hothead than Karen, who's very calm. And it's also good to see is they made a lot of nuanced choices for the girls, the schoolgirls, but also for the 2 women. And then you have some of the parents. And this is a highly womenized film. So it's like there's only a few male characters in it. Again, that's something I like. It's just because that's the world that these girls were living in. So I would recommend it. It's not an uplifting film, but at least there was some representation in those days, and the actresses did an awfully good job, as did the director. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.